Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This afternoon I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Jordan Publishing. It's an important book which I think will be of relevance not just to solicitors and financial advisors who are interested in revenue law, as we used to call it, certainly tax law, but I think it's going to be of importance also to the layman. Although of course it's written in very much with the legal profession in mind. The title of the book is A Modern Approach to Lifetime Tax Planning for Private Clients with Precedents, and there's a CD with Precedents attached to the book. It's a second edition of the work, and it's been written by Christopher Whitehouse and Professor Lesley King. We've written a review, my wife and I discussed this book, and we produced a review which will be on the web and in the journals. The title of our review is An Accessible, Engaging Approach to the Legal Aspects of Tax Planning, now in a new edition with an accompanying CD-ROM. Now, tax planning is an important area for all of us, and it's not to be confused with other aspects of tax. Let's look at the book first of all. A nice picture on the cover of the painter's daughter. And this is by Gainsborough, the photograph. There's the actual spine of the book is there. And then on the back, you've got a certain amount of information. There's not much of a foreword to this book, and you're expected really to know what you're looking for in it to a certain extent. There is the CD on the back. And then, of course, you've got the standard, very detailed, extremely helpful index, which is on the at the back, and it's actually by paragraph numbering, not by page numbering. So if you're looking for things, you need to bear in mind it's page numbering. We'll get onto that in a minute. Let's go to the front of the book. There's the first page there. Then there's a preface to the second edition. There's the preface there. There's not a great deal in it. And then there's the contents section here. So fairly detailed contents, quite helpful, so you can see what is actually covered in the book. Again, you can see it runs on a little bit in terms of the actual chapter numbers. It deals with tax avoidance, of course, which it must do. Then you can see as we go through various types of trust, it deals with cohabitants, various other things covered there, such as old age, particular assets, tax efficient information, a lot of information. See a large number of chapters developing here, and then right at the end you get to the last chapter, which is chapter 39, and then after that you have section 7, which has chapter 40, which is the final chapter of all, and then some appendices at the back, which covers the residual nil rate band, and it covers a larger number of other things, which are quite helpful again for practice. Then there's a table of cases, and then statutes. Then we get into and you've also got quite a useful list of abbreviations, which I do think is always important in this area of law. Essential law on giving, and then we run in from that into capacity, and you can see the structure of the book even from the first page. Paragraph numbering at the sides, and you've got footnotes, very extensive footnotes, and you've got, which I will talk to about in a minute, very useful examples throughout. Then if you go through, for instance, there are precedents set up, all of which are available on the CD-ROM itself. Then if we go into the middle of the book, you've got another, for instance, this is on an area covering when to make a settled gift. And there's a precedent there, discretionary trusts and so forth. Then you've got, for instance, the capital gains tax covered and cohabitation. And then you see running all the way through, it's a very detailed book. Now right at the back of the book, as I say, you've got the residential nil rate band set out, and you've got quite a lot of detailed information there, which I think you will find of some help. And there's some points on estate planning right at the end. Now the book runs to something like 700 pages. It's a heavy book. It's actually a hardback. But it's an important book for anybody involved in this area. And it is to a certain extent controversial, because clearly we do have very strong press commentary at the moment on things such as tax avoidance and tax evasion, which are not to be confused with tax planning, which is to look actually at the overall plans that you might have concerning what sort of tax you think you're going to be paying over your lifetime, and really to make some sort of responsible management decision, financial management decision on what you're doing. And that's up to you as an individual, which is why I think the book would be of help not just to those people who are professional advisors, either barristers, solicitors or financial advisors or accountants, but also to lay people too. Now, this is what we say about the book. It's a relatively short review. We said even tax lawyers, especially tax lawyers advising private clients, often find themselves dazed, confused, befuddled, bewildered and overwhelmed by the ever-increasing body of tax law, which seems either to change or proliferate with every passing year. And there's a quote. Keeping up with chancellors and the courts, say the authors Christopher Whitehouse and Lesley King, is something of a losing battle. So if all or some of this rings a bell with you, a judicious reading or even an overview of the book can and should augment the confidence and authority you need to provide your private clients with the correct advice on long-term, that means to say, lifetime tax planning. Now, this book has been published recently by Jordan Publishing, based in Bristol, and it's a new second edition of what we think is now a well-established work of reference, which actually makes the often abstruse subject matter that you'll inevitably confront in this area of law positively agreeable. It's direct, dispassionate and engaging, we think, and the commentary is written with the expertise and authority that actually makes personal tax planning palatable. The numerous worked examples, which I think actually are really helpful if you've got a particularly knotty problem, those worked examples are precise and illustrative of day-to-day situations, and the wealth of precedents that you've got in the book can certainly save you precious time. Obviously, if you do need professional advice, you need to go and see the experts. But this book will, I think, assist to a certain extent. And of course, these are all on the accompanying CD, which is at the back of the book and can therefore be adapted to individual client circumstances. So you've got a lot of the spade work already done, which I think is very helpful. And that's to be expected, by the way, not just from these books, but all the books that Jordan's publish are very much in line with that sort of service which they're offering, and we thank them for that. It's organised into 7 sections, this book, plus an appendix, and the book takes a practical, common sense approach to what is a wide range of specific topics, covering things like trusts and settlements to the family home, to CGT, capital gains tax, main residence relief, businesses, investments, insurance-based financial products and farms, and much more. And the new edition provides coverage of all the major new developments which have taken place recently, including, for example, what I referred to earlier, which is at the back of the book, the residential nil rate ban introduced by the Finance No. 2 Act 2015. You also discussed are the Taxations Pensions Act 2014, the Inheritance and Trustees Powers Act 2014, and changes to inheritance tax charges on relevant property trusts. And the full texts of the STEP standard provision and the STEP investment policy are also included. And as you can see, even from what I've said, that what you've got at the moment, and you've had it from successive governments now for a long time, is the system is becoming more and more complicated. Simply not good enough in real terms. But at the end of the day, no one has actually said, let's call a halt and stop this getting even more and more complex. And then, unfortunately, that is what has happened. The floodgates have opened, and it's going to continue for some time. So you've really got to be on your toes as to what to do. And this is why this book, I think, is quite important. The book itself is structured for ease of use, and it features numbered paragraphs throughout, as I've shown you, which is how you find them by reference at the back of the book in the index. There's good footnoting throughout, and a helpful detailed table of contents, plus the very, very helpful index, as well as tables of cases, statutes and SIs, etc. I think to summarise, it's particularly useful for advisors on revenue law, and it is indeed a modern approach to the legal aspects of tax planning, which is not a dirty word at all. It's a very important thing. The banks always encourage you to do it, and in fact proper, sensible, responsible governments should do as well, because you've got to look ahead and see what your indebtedness would be at the end of the day to the state, and also to make sure that you can provide for your family. Therefore, of course, it's the core of sensible financial management to make sure you know what you're doing. This book helps you. Busy tax lawyers, we think, will inevitably regard this as an important and accessible work of reference, and frankly indispensable. Now, the authors have expressed it in this way, that they say the law is as stated at November 2015, with the 2015 autumn statement on the horizon. But the book is actually published at the end of January 2016, and I'm actually recording that just as it is launched in the bookshops today and tomorrow. There is the book itself again. There's the nice spine for you. You see the title of it. Then a little bit of information about the two writers on the back. Just opening it up in the middle again to show you, I'm right in the middle. Administering a settlement, exercising trustees' powers. The correct test for rescission for mistake. There we go, and you've got some cases, useful little cases there. And then if I give you an example, when I can, in fact there's a precedent here on settling advance, not creating a new settlement. That gives you the standard sort of precedent which you can find on the CD. And then, for instance, you've got examples. This is spouses and civil partners. And it gives you a factual example, fictitious of course, but factual in the sense of the facts which are similar possibly to what you might have. And then it gives you some sort of advice as to how to deal with a particular example you might have in relation specifically perhaps to a particular section of an Act of Parliament. And you've got a lot of these worked examples throughout the book. There's some more there. That's dealing again with spouses. I'm very pleased with this book. There is a lot of law in it, of course. So for those of you involved in this area of law, it'd be very interesting. But thank you both to Jordan's and, of course, to the authors, Christopher Whitehouse and Lesley King, for what I think is a first-class book. And it's something you need if you're involved in this area of law. Thank you to all concerned anyway. Bye-bye.